Good afternoon. As always, I'll start with a quick synopsis of our last performance. And really, in watching the game and combing through it, I really have the same feelings that I had after the game. It was classic AFC North ball, and specifically Steelers-Ravens. It was a close game. It was a one-possession game. And oftentimes the splash plays, those weighty plays, those plays made on a short field or in situational moments like 2-minute, oftentimes to determine the outcome of the game. We didn't take care of the ball in those moments. We turned the ball over. We took points off the board. They were able to secure the ball in a couple of instances on the short field and preserve those 3 points. And oftentimes that's the difference in this matchup. I know it just felt that way. The last couple of times we played them, we've made the turnover on the short field. Cam Sutton up there in game 2 last year with the interception in the end zone on the attempt to Mark Andrews, for example, being an example of that. In a close game, in a one-score game versus teams that are highly familiar with one another, when you get those point-swinging-like plays, oftentimes it's the difference. Obviously, the big field goal block by Calais Campbell was also extremely significant. And, man, they just got to compliment that guy. He's the most significant and accomplished kick blocker in our game today. We knew it. We talked about it in this setting leading up to the game, and yet and still he delivered a timely splash play in that area. And I think that kind of defines greatness. There's disappointment with the outcome of the game, but I'd be remiss and I'd be a non-football lover if I didn't appreciate that component of competition. A known skill set, you work your tail off to minimize it, and in the weightiest of moments, a quality player delivers it anyway. That's kind of the greatness we all seek in whatever spaces that we work in this game. And so there were a lot of other little things, obviously, that played into the totality of that. I thought the field positioning component of the special teams was significant. The 17-yard punt is low-hanging fruit, but when I look at the totality of the punting game, we had a touchback, and you can't have touchbacks when you're trying to play the long field game. We had a holding call on punt return that gave them a 56-yard net on one punt in the second half, for example. The totality of those things in a close ball game leans the field toward Tucker and away from Boswell. And when these two teams come together, oftentimes it comes down to Tucker and Boswell. And so those are my sentiments. That's the reflection. It was a lot of good. It was some bad. We're winning or learning, even at this juncture of the season. And we had a good day yesterday analyzing some components of why we didn't engineer victory. And hopefully that's a catalyst for us as we put together a plan and work that plan and lean in on this opportunity in Carolina this week. And we're going to play a group, man, that's hot right now, that's putting together a personality, dividing their labor up, making the necessary plays to put wins together. And so they have our attention. Before I get into those guys, I'll talk injuries and player availability. First, with Kenny Pickett. After the game, I was asked about the protocol that he went through and my knowledge of it. Oftentimes, the guys on the field have my attention, and I just receive information from medical experts and so forth. So I wasn't a part of his process. After the first series of the game, he was evaluated by the medical experts. He was cleared to continue. Even though we clear someone to continue, oftentimes they're continually evaluated throughout the process of the game, and that's what transpired when he came off the field. The next series, they continued that evaluation, and it was determined that he could not continue. And so Kenny's in the protocol. Like always, when we're in the protocol, we'll adhere to it. We'll rely on the expertise of our medical experts and let those guys provide the framework for how we proceed. Participation is big, obviously, for him and the quality of that participation. The last time he sustained a concussion, he was in the protocol, but he was allowed to work. We'll see what this procedure is like. His ability to work oftentimes will determine whether or not he gets an opportunity to. We'll take it day by day. I think he's out visiting with the docs as we speak. If he's able to work, we'll work him. If he's unable to work, obviously, we'll divvy those reps up between Mitch and Mason, and we'll play both guys if he's unable to work in a practice setting in an effort to make a determination what's best as we lean in on the latter part of the week. But again, when you're dealing with someone in the protocol, man, you just simply take it day by day, and whatever the medical experts tell us in terms of the rate of work or the quality of work, we'll adhere to it, and we'll kind of frame up our planning and make decisions accordingly based on that information. Chris Wormley has a knee injury that's going to require surgery, and so he will be out. Freiermuth, I think, is just managing the foot injury that caused him to miss a piece of time in the game. He returned in the game and was able to finish, and I would imagine that his level of participation is going to increase as we push through the week. Some of the other guys, bumps and bruises and so forth, are continually evaluated. As always, they might be limited at the early portions, but as I stand here, I don't see anyone else worth mentioning whose availability might be compromised. But again, we'll take it day by day and move forward in that way. Now on to Carolina. Man, I see a group that's really doing a good job under the circumstances. Man, I've known Coach Wilkes a long time, man, got a lot of respect for his work, his body of work, his mentality regarding ball, and I think it's just being reflected in terms of the makeup of their group. They've taken a tough circumstance, man, and they've settled it down. They've developed personality in all three phases. They play complementary football. They lean on their strengths and work to minimize their weaknesses. They divide the labor up very well in all three phases, meaning they ask people to do specific things, and when you do that, you have an opportunity to elevate the floor. And so, that's what we spent the last 24 hours or so doing, familiarizing ourselves with the here and now with this group, how they're dividing the labor up, how they're leaning on their strengths, what are some of the schematic things they're doing to minimize areas that they want to cover up, and how it's all coming together to produce a product. On defense, man, been really impressed with Burns. Man, he's an elite edge guy. It's cool to kind of watch a guy evolve and develop as a player. I've watched it firsthand in Highsmith here, but it's cool to watch a guy that you don't see every day, like Burns, man, really evolve. I think he is a dominant edge player, a guy that needs to be reckoned with, a guy you better be conscious of where he is, a guy that you maybe even need to be prepared to defend or minimize with schematics, particularly when you're in one-dimensional circumstances. The big interior man, 95 out of Auburn, is a power player who happens to be athletic. He controls the interior portions of the field. You better get four hands on him if you want to minimize his impact on the game. He is a dominant interior force. At the second level, Shaq Thompson, man, is a heady player, a guy that's very good in pass defense, man, covers a lot of ground, particularly horizontal ground. It's interesting to kind of watch him play. It looks like a guy who was raised by Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis. The guys that were big-time hook droppers and spot drop zone defenders of their generation. The early portions of this guy's career, man, he played behind those guys and learned a lot from them, I'm sure. Just in terms of watching them play, I see Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis in the way that he reads the quarterback, closes windows, and plays in that space. Can't say enough about that. Got quality guys in the back end, J.C. Horn, Chin. They ask him to do a lot of things. Both guys are versatile. Both guys are capable of playing nickel. Horn plays outside corner and nickel. Chin plays safety and nickel. Their versatility allows them to put them in the kitchen and utilize their talents in the effort to minimize your strengths. They do a really good job of that week in and week out. The schematics are challenging. They bring five a lot. They bring a lot of people. They play in an up posture. They zero you. They take the calculated risk in pursuit associated with the pursuit of victory. And so they got some schematic things that has our attention that's going to be challenging. They also have quality players at every level. On offense, as they've had instability at quarterback for a variety of reasons, performance, injury, et cetera, it's been interesting to see how they've settled all of that down by simply relying on their run game. What they have had is consistency in terms of availability within their offensive line, much like we have. And I think you see similar upticks in productivity. The consistency in which they're running the ball and their commitment to it has increased. And I would imagine it's because of the stability within that group when they've haven't necessarily had stability in other areas. They've had different people playing quarterback. They've had different people, obviously, over the course of the season playing running back. But the nucleus of that offensive line, the extra people, Irvin, the offensive lineman that reports as eligible, the collection of tight ends, Thomas being the lead guy in that group, they've had really good stability in that area, and I see them leaning on that collective and playing behind that collective. I think it minimizes negativity. I think it keeps them on schedule. It allows them to maintain possession of the ball, play to the strength of their defense and special teams unit. Can't say enough about Heckard and their special teams unit. He's an elite, if not the best, one of the best punters in the game. And so you see how the different units come together to produce the style of play that they have right now that's produced consecutive wins here in the last couple of weeks. And so we got a lot of work ahead of us. We're excited about that work. Starts in the classroom and strategy as we sit here today, and then we'll get to the physical labor and the prep tomorrow as we start to get back on the grass and lean in on it. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, to clarify, if Kenny can't start on Sunday, would you go with Mason or Mitch?
You know, I'm going to work both guys this week if given an opportunity, if he's not able to participate. But really, I'm taking it day by day from a quarterback decision-making standpoint. His availability day-to-day is such a key component of it. And so I'm not even looking toward the end of the week. I'm really kind of just looking at what tomorrow looks like and playing it by ear from that perspective. All three guys are sharp guys. All three guys have been participants in our game planning, particularly of late, and all are very capable of playing the position and playing the position at a high level within what we're doing right now. And so we'll take it day to day and play it by ear.
Mike, when you go back and look, what did you like about what Mitch was able to do?
You know, I thought we moved the ball fluidly, continually, and that's what you better have when you have a veteran backup like him. The reps that he misses during the course of the week is made up for by his cumulative experience and expertise, if you will, and we felt that. We didn't feel any reduction in what we intended to do once Kenny went down, and I thought we continued to move the ball fluidly. As I mentioned, we just didn't make enough plays, particularly when the field got short. We had to do a better job of taking care of the football.
Mike, with Mitch being number 2 the most of the season, what has allowed Mason to now join that conversation, at least leading up to this week?
We work both guys. Both guys have remained engaged, and it's really kind of been 2 and 2A, if you will. There's a scarcity of reps, but again, as I mentioned, when you got veteran backups, guys with a cumulative body of work, particularly in Mason's case, having been exposed to us and having been here and the receivers potentially that he would work with and all of those things. Oftentimes when you're talking about a guy ascending within that position, you're calling on past experience as a catalyst for how you move forward.
Mike, is there a concern with the protocol in the sense that Kenny was allowed to go back out on the field? I mean, do things need to be amended again?
Not at all. I know anytime there's an injury, you guys love to chew that up over the course of the week, but it was, as I mentioned, when someone's in the protocol, they're evaluated by the experts. They're either cleared to participate or not. Even when they are, which he was, they watch him continually. As they continued to watch him, they decided to pull him, and that's the reality of it. So enjoy. Have at it.
Is there any concern with him that this is second time in the protocol?
Not from me, because I'm not a medical expert. I gain my position, my confidence, my levels of concern, any of the things that you would ask along those lines from the medical experts. I'm really comfortable in that.
Have those experts expressed any concerns?
I haven't met with them yet today.
So you don't have to proceed any more cautiously because he's been in the...
Not at all. Not at all. I'm really comfortable with where we are. As I've mentioned in the past, when we've had injuries of this nature, I got nothing but great admiration and respect for our medical experts. People come from all over the world to visit with our guys and from other sports as well. And so I'll let them do what it is they do.
Considering how low the bar is now to draw a flag for roughing the passer, did you have a problem with that hit at all, or the face mask potentially on the hit?
I did not.
If he is cleared, Kenny, how much input are you going to have in putting him in the game, knowing he has had 2 concussions in 8 weeks, thinking about the longevity of his career?
Again, I lean on the expertise of the medical experts, guys. You guys can ask me all the medical levels of caution and optimism questions you want. I lean on those medical experts. I am not. And so whatever they decide is what we do, and there's really not a lot of discussion there.
So if he's cleared, he'll play.
If he's cleared.
Is this an opportunity to talk to him, pull him aside, and be like, listen, you know, I understand you want to try to fight and do as much as you can to make a play, but at the same time, you can't take hits?
No.
Mike, Mitch said a couple of times in post-game on Sunday that he was overly aggressive on a couple of those interceptions. Obviously, he was aggressive to get the ball down the field. What's that line? What do you talk to him about being aggressive?
That's a balance that we always walk, you know, aggressively pursue the victory. I'd rather say woe than sick 'em. It's something to manage, but I'd rather manage that than to manage the opposite of that.
Anything with your run, you saw pinpoint with the run defense and why, kind of had some breakdowns there?
You know, oftentimes when you're not successful, it's both it's schematics and it's performance, and I'd say it was both. You know, I thought they won the war of attrition as the game wore on. I thought the pile fell the direction that they desired it to. And so, you know, what could be 2nd and 8 was 2nd and 6. You do that consecutively. What could be, 3rd and 4 is 3rd and 2. And those downs are played out differently in the National Football League. And I think over the course of time, I thought that was the state of it, increasingly so. And so we got to do a better job of getting them in position to minimize that pile. We got to come off blocks a little better. And we got to understand the weight of possession down ball when you're playing someone that's playing the attrition game. You win a 3rd down and 7. Like, we had a 3rd down and 7 that we had a breakdown. They had a 25-yard gain. The drive extended. They ran the ball some more. They ended up getting a field goal on that drive. We win that 3rd and 7. We're on the sideline. Those attrition plays that we discussed, whether or not that pile's falling forward and things of that nature doesn't exist. And so we very much could be in that style of game again this week with the way Carolina's playing. And so we got some schematic work ahead of us. We got some physical work ahead of us. The pile needs to fall the direction in which we desire it to fall. And outside of that attrition component of the discussion, you got to win the weighty downs. You win the weighty downs. Good defense to spend a lot of time on the sideline, not playing plays. And so that's kind of the discussion regarding the attrition component of what transpired last week.
Mike, looking at the last 6 quarters as a whole of the run defense, especially in the second half in Atlanta, hasn't played well. Are they not doing something that they were early in the season?
We played 2 run-centric teams with quarterback mobility. And so, you play 2 teams like that, you're going to have somebody ringing up yards on you in the running game. If we played 2 teams that featured the passing game, you could be talking about 6 quarters of passing yards. And so I'm not desensitive to it, but I just understand it's just the nature of the style of ball we've been playing of late. And we got another game that's could be very similar this week, and so it does have our attention.
Speaking back on the attrition part, Cam talked about at the end of the game. He's like, you guys knew what plays were coming, and then they still didn't stop it. Do moments like that lead to maybe looking at personnel situations as far as how you use some of your other guys, especially up front, like say Leal and like Loudermilk, to kind of get?
I think you're continually having those discussions regardless of the outcome of plays or games. I just think that that's just a function of football at this level. Each week when we formulate plans, we do the schematics, we divide the labor up, we look at the minutia. It's players and plays. Best players, best plays, particularly in the weighty moments. And so the division of labor, how finely you divide it and all of that is ongoing, continual discussions, no doubt.
Mike, on that final series, I don't think you stacked the box with extra players. Did you think about putting the pressure on the young
We
quarterback?
did.
You
We
put
did.
more in there? Okay.
We did, yes.
Does that make it more alarming that they were able to get what they needed?
No, it's football. The ball snaps, you kick butt or you get your butt kicked. Football is a legitimate, humble man's game. Those that participate in it, particularly at this level, playing and coaching, there's not a lot of room for arrogance, man, because everybody gets their butt kicked every now and then in this thing. Whether it's plays or sequences, hopefully not games, but it's a game for the legitimate humble. We don't talk about that enough.
With the improvements you guys have made on the whole, on run defense, how much of a loss is Chris Wormley going down with that injury?
It's significant, but each week, man, we look at the guys that are available to us, and we put together schematics to highlight who's available. We work to minimize who's not, and so this week won't be any different. We've had weeks where others are unavailable, and we've leaned more toward him, and so he's gonna be unavailable. We're gonna lean more toward others and their skill sets and what they might be able to provide us.
We're speaking, leaning into something. Looks like they've been going with like 8 offensive lineman looks. They call it like the Arby's package or a 6-man front that they've been using a ton. It's that been within the past couple of weeks, months since Coach Wilkes took over. They leaned into that more.
It's probably been more recent than that, right around the bye or what have you, or right when they, just prior to them going to Denard, I think, or Darnold. I just think it's been within the last month. I think they're discovering themselves continually. And that's not surprising considering the circumstances that they've been working through in terms of lack of stability.
Mike, you've known Mason for a while. How has he kind of stayed locked in this season? He's always a guy that likes the prep, that's always on the field, but obviously his pre-games are different. Things are different for him than they have been in other years.
He's been the same guy from my perspective. He's probably better equipped to answer the how. But I see the same guy. I still see the same level of urgency, attention to detail, and competitive spirit.
All right.
Thanks, guys.